at least in Jersey, but it was kind of you got to jump on with a crew of guys that are pretty full on into it. And I know you have a history, which I don't know the full narrative of, having, you had a professional surfing career. I think you competed in Jersey and the East Coast somewhat competitively for a while, but I don't know the full, gamut of that. If you could shed some light on that, I don't know,
Yeah, I guess if you, have me say, I was a free surfer in a time before Instagram. That
was only years ago.
in 2 years before Instagram, I was free surfing like nobody's business, and then I had kids. But I guess as far as here's my surf career. It was I had been a sponsored ESA kind of kid surfer from ages middle school through high school, and I moved to when I graduated high school, rather than go to college, I moved to Hawaii for the winter, and just to surf. And I was like, this is how you become a pro surfer, right? And spent 3 winters kind of just surfing my heart out and hoping that somebody would notice. And a couple people noticed, but not many. And I got a photo here and a photo there, and I wound up with I think probably the thing that made me stick with it was I got a photo in Surfing magazine. It was a centerfold, and it was
ooh.
It had it was a collage of I think it was the top 40, maybe, I don't know if there were 40, maybe it was 20 pictures on the centerfold, and it was the who's who of surfing, from Corey Lopez and Chris Ward and Jason Bogle and all these Hawaiian surfers like Brian Pacheco, and I can't just for 1998, it was the who's who of the 19-year-old kids surfers in the world, and my picture was in the middle with all those people, and I was like, shit, man, I did it, that's cool. And so then I was I came back to New Jersey, and I moved to California, and I was I'm going to move to California, and I'm going to be a pro surfer, because I have some sponsors now, but I got to get paid. I got to get paid. So I was trying to do some contests and surfing contests out in California. I won some pro-ams and just real small rinky-dink contests. And I was in California for a year, and I was I can't do this. I'm not doing California. And I moved back to New Jersey in 1999 and kind of went dark for about 4 years, where I was surfing my heart out. I was living in LBI, living down in Beach Haven, surfing exclusively on Long Beach Island, New Jersey, and never leaving, and with no hope of ever leaving. I was working. I was living in an apartment that my boss was renting me, and paying for it with work. It was essentially an indentured servant, and it was just I was just trapped in Beach Haven. But the one thing was I would just, if there was waves, I was I'm not going to be at work today. There's waves, and that was my deal. And that was how I coped with never, that was it. I'm essentially a servant to this guy, and then I get to surf when there's waves. And so I was doing that, and I was, still seeking sponsorship. I rode for Hurley for a while, and they gave me a little bit of a travel budget, and I'd always had some flow or whatever. But then in about 2004, this guy who I mentioned earlier, Tim Swart, was he had just taken the job as the team manager for Zoo York Skateboards. He was the team manager for this new surf team that they were starting, and they wanted to start a surf team with people that were like off the grid as far as surfers go, and people that might be like a little bit like, you know, not the first guy. He just was like, we don't want a group of jocks. Like, we don't want a crew of, you know, just like, you know, he's like, we think you have this, you know, we think we see something. And I was like, all right, that's awesome. And he turned out to be just like a mentor and inspiration for me, and in my woodworking career too, but also in, like, in surfing. And he got me paid to be a surfer for a while, and I started getting a few $100 a month here and there, or a few $100 a month for like a first year. And then it was like, whoa, I'm getting enough money. And I'm like, I got married, and I was like, you know, like working, doing a little bit of carpentry, and like, but like, you know, most of my bills were paid for because like this skateboard company is paying for it. And, you know, and then it was like, well, because I had that good sponsorship, there were other people that wanted to like jump on board and flow me a little bit, like, you know, a few $100 here and there. And all of a sudden I'm like, shit, I'm paying my mortgage. Like, this is awesome. I'm like paying the mortgage and like making enough money to like I have a daughter now, and I'm like, I'm a surfer, and like, I can like still do this carpentry thing, like jump on here and there with different people, and still haven't like started like Farmhaus or anything like that. But I was just doing woodwork, you know, just or whatever, carpentry, just like so that was it. Like, I was like riding for Zoo York, and I met my wife, and she was living in Connecticut. My wife was living in Connecticut, and like I was like, oh, I got to move out of my apartment because it's going to be winter soon, and they closed down the apartment for the winter. So, mind if I stay in Connecticut? And she was like, yeah, I think that's cool. And but when I was in Connecticut, there was I'm only 2 hours away from Maine, and in Maine, I had just met this really good friend through one of his first surf shoots ever, with this photographer, Nick LaVecchia. And it was like, he had gotten hired as like a photo assistant on a Zoo York shoot. And we like struck up, you know, like a fast friendship. And he was like, oh, I'm moving to Maine. You should come check it out. It's really beautiful there. And I was like, well, I'll be in Connecticut. It's like 2 hours away. I'll just cruise up. And then it was like, I was riding for New York, and they're like, hey, when you travel, you get a per diem. Like, if you submit your receipts, so we'll pay for all your gas, and we'll give you like $50 a day to like, for like incidentals. And I was like, so if I just drive to Maine once a week, I can like get an extra couple $100 a month.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and then so Nick was like just starting out. Like, he wasn't a renowned photographer at all. He was like just a guy trying to like find people to take pictures of. And there really, I don't want to sound like a dick or anything, but there really weren't very many people surfing up in Maine that you would, you know, get great photos of at the time. There's a couple of them, but like, you know, not many. And so me and Nick started hanging out like every week, and I would drive up to Maine. I would leave my girlfriend's apartment on like, you know, Monday after she would go to work, and I would maybe hang out till Thursday and come home Thursday so I could be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever. I would just do whatever I wanted. And I was like, that was pro surfing for me, because we were just scoring photos. Like, every time there were waves, like, we were on it. And I had my personal photographer, and you know, he was working with like a couple like Northeast Mag and like, you know, he you know, something on surf. I would like open up Surfline and be like, oh, got a picture on Surfline. So lame. Surfline's so lame. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because magazines were a thing. I wanted to be in the magazine. Who cares about Surfline? Now there's no such thing as magazines, but Surfline's all there is. But it was funny. Yeah, like that was it. Like I kind of didn't ever have to do a surf contest really again after that. And I did that for like from 2005 through 2009 or so, maybe about 2009. I was just getting like, you know, most of my bills paid from surfing and then working to supplement, you know, and support the family. And I would get like one or two like real trips in. Yeah. Cause so after 1 year of like traveling to Maine all the time and having this like real, like free spirited kind of like free surfer life, you know, my wife and I, we had this idea. We'd buy this house in Philadelphia. She was going to go to graduate school and I was going to fix up the house that we bought and lived in. And at the end of 5 years, we were going to sell it and get out of Philadelphia and move on with our lives. And, you know, really quickly, like within like the first 8 minutes of owning our house, I think she found out she was pregnant. And then it was like, all right, now I'm going to be, you know, more than just supplementing my income. Like now I got to like support a kid and everything. And it was more work. And then I remember, you know, just getting the call one day and just being like, yeah, dude, it doesn't really make sense for us to sponsor this, you know, kind of, you know, middle-aged dude from Philadelphia. And just being like, no, dude, that's it. That's the end of it. But knowing it was coming at any minute. And then there was like a few dark years where I was just working in Philadelphia and not even surfing hardly at all, like a couple times a year, and just trying to like keep everybody paid. And then in about 2009 or 10, my wife was like going back to work, and she was like, she you know, she took, you know, after college or after her graduate degree, she was like, she took a couple years to just be with our daughters. We had 2 now. And I was like, well, I'm going to be the stay-at-home dad while you go to work. Like, you're going to get this great job now that with your graduate degree. And I was like, but I'd still like to work, you know, because like we'll still need me to work, because mostly so that I don't lose my mind. And and that's when I literally like had this, like, we were driving in the car and I was like, just like blacked out for a minute and like came to, and I was like, I'm going to start a company. It's called Farmhaus. I'm going to name it. And I had this whole thing. I just like spit it out. I was like, I need to make my company so that I don't have to be out on a site all the time. Like, I want to just have a wood shop where I can just go to the same place every day and like pick up and put down like exactly where I stopped and started every day, so that I can just be like more focused on the kids. But, you know, and I was, but I still was able to get like, you know, work done every day. And that's when I started kind of building. That's when I started like just kind of making stuff like with an aesthetic, and with like, you know, I started a brand, and like stuff just seemed to kind of like start coming to me like right about then. And that's when I started building furniture. About 2000 when I started exclusively building furniture, or just saying that like, I'm not gonna like help you drywall your kitchen this weekend, you know what I mean? Like, I started being like, oh, I do kitchen tables, and I was doing like, you know, I had a wood shop, and I was building like kitchens and stuff like that, but I wasn't like going about it to create heirlooms. You know, I was going about it to like get money.